Welcome to Inspired by Design, the podcast where we explore the tools, stories, and insights to help you rediscover your authentic self and navigate life with less resistance. I'm Katie Rupert, a former hustle and grind overachiever on a thrilling and messy journey. I love to share what I'm learning and help others in self-discovery using human design. So, if you're seeking a way to move forward, let me be your weekly mindset coach and share stories to inspire you to action towards your unique purpose without the force or burnout. My friends, welcome back. It's Inspired by Design. This is Katie, your host. Glad you're here. Okay, what are we doing? It's time for a new series. And this one came to me while I was doing an interview yesterday. So I'm pausing everything and moving the series up because I feel like it's just good timing, and I kind of got prompted. And as you may or may not know, I am doing my ultimate best to live according to my human design. And it just feels like the right time to share this topic. So what is it? What are we going to be talking about? I want to share with you some of the people that have been helping me along my journey. So I've shared lots of different lessons and stories that I've had over the years through this podcast. But one thing that I really haven't spent a lot of time on are the modalities, the tools that I personally use on my walk of life when I encounter things that all of us do, like burnout, overwhelm, grief, stress. There are so many things that we've come up with as amazingly smart human beings. And I have been drawn to, for lack of a better word, the woo-woo, the metaphysical, this energy part of our being. And all of us are made up of energy. I mean, at its core, this is science. You know, you put your hands really close together, and at some point, you're going to feel some warmth. If someone is staring at you, you can feel it in a way, right? That's what I'm talking about. And that's at its simplest. And there's so much more to it. One of the lessons that I've been learning is it's really okay not to know everything and know all the details of how. If it's your truth and it's true in your experience, that is what you are meant to experience and learn from. So I'm not saying there's no truth. I'm just saying that the more that I learn, the more I'm open to other people's experiences. And at the core of who I am, everything that I am has to do with my eyes being relational. I love people. I love getting to know people just because they're people. And not just people. I love animals and all kinds of things. But what I'm talking about today is the more that I learn, grow, open my mind up, open my world up, listen, the more I listen, I find out there is infinitely more than I could ever understand or know. I relate this very much to my history growing up in the church. You would hear about there's more stars in the sky than you could ever count. More just appear as you try. Or the strands of hair on your head. God knows the strands of hair, how many you have. And we're always losing and growing, right? So it's like impossible. The possible is impossible. Wait, I said that wrong. The impossible is always possible. And I have had such a rich experience of life, and it seems to be simply getting better and better. So the series, that's where we started. Yes. I have some friends, some people that I've made just really good relationships with over the years in this current phase of life, this journey of like learning and growing and self-discovery and what's out there, and just being a seeker. I'm always going to be a seeker. And I have lined up some interviews, and I realized that, oh, these have some things in common. So I have a gal who does Reiki and reflexology. I have an astrologist coming on, someone who did an astrology reading for me, and I learn from her every month at our local library. I have an angel card reader and someone who has gifts of like just knowing and hearing messages from the divine, from above, from inner wisdom. So I'm really excited. And then last time, was it last week? Might have been 2 weeks ago. We had Wendy who practices sound healing. So we're going to have a series where you can learn about different modalities of self-discovery, healing, and energy work. And what that means, I have acquaintances and connections from all walks of life, right? Learning people's stories and their experiences. I am always inspired by what they have to say, even if I don't agree, even if I don't get it. A lot of times, if I listen closely enough, I get what they're saying, or because of all of the experiences that I've happened upon, which I don't think were coincidence, I have something to relate it to. And so I hope that this episode today, as I just give you a little primer to what we're going to move into and teach you about, or you have the experience to hear stories about, is I hope that I'll be able to be a bridge for you wherever you are. I feel like I am very well equipped to see both sides of every story, and not just two sides, but there's probably 3, 4, 5 different perspectives we can have. And I hope that you'll gain some perspective or see your perspective in a new way. And I wanted to lead not just that lesson that I learned is that the more I know that I don't know, but also that it's okay to question. It's okay to be skeptical. It's okay to have doubts. It's okay to seek out answers and truth. Because when it comes down to hope, faith, love, these experiences, these feelings, these universal things that we all have, those things are not at stake. Those things are not going to be taken away or removed from your life because you have questions, because you try something new. I have been on a journey of faith my entire life. So growing up in the church, I was a little bit of a misfit, a very charismatic Baptist child. I was the one who would be like, yeah, let's clap our hands. Let's raise our hands. Let's sing loud and proud for all to say, oh, we have rules. Let's follow the rules. I was just really good at finding out where the boundaries were and staying within them. And, part of that is, growing up and wanting to prove my worth and value and stuff. But another part is just like the person that I was born to be: charismatic, enthusiastic, inspirational, just enthusiasm, yeah, that just bubbles out of me, and it's contagious. It's contagious, or it's repelling. All right. And I'm very aware of it. I used to take it personally when someone didn't like me, when I could tell that my enthusiasm was too much, or, I'd even get little comments, right? Like, oh my gosh, now I have Jim from The Office in my head because, like Dwight makes fun of him and he's like, little comment. Oh, I'm Jim, little comment. Anybody? No? I wish I had some feedback. All right. So I know that my enthusiasm can be a little too much for people, but I also know that the people who I'm here to inspire into action, to own their life and to show up authentically, those people, they like my enthusiasm and they match it and they want it. So if that's you, awesome. Glad you're here. If it's not you, hey, I'm cool with it. Hopefully you can still learn something from the episode. Thanks for listening. Okay. So I think I want to start with my astrology reading. Yes. Okay. So I've always looked at a magazine. So when I was growing up as an elder millennial here, I would go to the grocery store or the Walmart or whatever with my mom, and there was this section, and actually I think the section kind of does still exist, but I would run to that section. I'd look at the magazines and like, I don't know, Teen Beat, Cosmo, whatever. And I'd look for the astrology section, right? And I'd read my horoscope. So I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot about this. And actually, you're supposed to read your horoscope for the rising sign. Maybe we'll ask Tess that when she does her interview. But anyhow, I was always into astrology. I thought it was fun. It was fascinating. I don't know that I used it ever as a prediction, but it was just fun, right? And I heard people saying all my life, like, oh, it's the full moon, kids are acting crazy, right? So this is like part of our culture. It's just fun and light. Or if maybe you've heard this one, it's like, oh, it's 1111, make a wish, right? The angel number thing. And we just don't think about that, right? We don't think about what that means or what those things are or where they're rooted. But when I started looking into human design and I started getting intrigued by that. And I had found this astrology class at the library. I was like, I really have always been interested. I'm going to go and see if I can learn something. I knew my sun sign was either a Cancer or Leo. Sometimes it was one or the other, depending on which magazine. And it always confused me. So I wanted to figure this out, which is a lot of times what drives me is if I don't have the answer, I will figure out how to be a master until I get my answer and it's satisfying. So I went to this, I learned a ton about astrology, and I was part of this like summit where it was a free online thing. And there was an astrology gal there as well. And she was doing like, if you were the first to 10 to sign up, free 30-minute astrology readings. So I signed up, I got in to my very first reading with astrology. I was really intrigued to find out, like, what would she say about me? And here's the thing I remember about it. First of all, I am a Leo. I'm first degree of Leo. All right. So finally got that answer right. And the other thing that really, really surprised me about this reading that it just hasn't left me. But I'm starting to see how it might be true. I almost wish I could go back and like hear that again. But I remember her saying that I will likely get my success. I will likely be really, really drawn to and fascinated by the occult and things that are very taboo. And I was like, what? What is that? And I didn't know at the time that, like, I think of the occult and I think like, ooh, negative, bad, black, witchcraft, blah, so bad. And I had a negative connotation of that word. And taboo, I just thought of like weird sex stuff. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. So anyway, I asked these questions. I was like, so what does that mean? What does that mean? She's like, like you'd be into astrology or human design or mediumship or something like this. And I was like, okay, I see what you're saying. And I said, well, I have, I don't feel like and the black sheep, I would be the black sheep of my core group, my home, if you will. And I was like, well, I'm really extroverted. I'm really loud and talkative. I am the entrepreneur or whatever. I just can't sit still. Maybe that's what you're talking about. So anyway, I thought that was kind of interesting. And I would have to, ask again, like what placements or whatever make that true for me. But it stuck with me. And I've been curious about what that means. Well, it wasn't long after I'm like obsessed with human design, which is rooted in astrology, by the way. And I stumbled upon this book called The Emotion Code, which was written by, I think like I don't think it's a pastor, but like a Christian guy. He works with energy work, and you're basically you create this relationship with your higher self through the divine, and you can bring to consciousness emotions that are stuck, inherited. And then he wrote a second book. I think it's Bradley something. I can link that up if you're curious about it. But anyway, read the book, and it wasn't like oh, I need to go find someone that does this and experience it. It was this inner knowing inside of me that, oh, I could do this today. There was something in me that just knew without having to be told, this energy work, this healing modality sounds like something I could just do right now today. I don't need to learn it. It's already in me. And so after I finished the book, I realized that at the end, there's these like little guides, like a download that you can get and you can try it yourself. And I was like, well, look at that. I'm going to try this. And I have been practicing the emotion and body code now for almost every day for like a year. It has become my personal, quiet reflection time. And it has led me to understand that there's a part of us, like our spirit, our soul, our consciousness, our um, unconscious brain, whatever it is. I don't even need to have the exact details, but it's been with us our whole lives. We can't hold on to all the information. Our brains would explode, right? But we do know. So what I do, like sometimes people, they like, for example, don't know the time of their birth when they're doing a human design reading with me. And I try to feel them out a little bit. I don't always offer this, but if it's someone I know well, I will ask if we can do muscle testing, which is what I'm talking about, muscle testing to just see if we can find out the time that they were born. And I've had, I probably lost count, but at least 5 that I've done that with, but at least 5 that we've been able to confirm after. And I'm like, cool, it works, right? So what that looks like is I'll ask, through muscle testing, were you born in the morning? Were you born in the evening? Was it before 3 o'clock? Was it after 3 o'clock? So I'm using this energy work, this muscle testing through your aura, your body. Your conscious mind doesn't know what time you were born, but your consciousness was around when you were born. So that's the idea behind it. So I hope it makes sense. If it doesn't, that's all right. But I did have I can think of like 5 people off the top of my head where we've come down to even the minute they were born, and then like they had their birth certificate or their mom got back to them or whatever, and they were able to be like, yeah, that it was 6:01 or 3:34 or whatever. So that's been pretty neat to have that kind of confirmation that what I believe and trust and work with as a personal energy healing modality is something that is valid, So anyway, I guess what I'm saying here is that as I've tiptoed into the world of energy work, and now, oh my gosh, the things that I have experienced, it's just mind blowing. And again, every time I learn something new, not only am I fascinated and intrigued, and I can't wait to listen to like people's experiences with it, I'm blown away at the peace inside of me when it feels true. So I know that I was also born with just an intuition that's undeniable. I don't hear voices, I don't see pictures, but I do just get a sense of things. And I always get confirmation when I do. It's pretty cool. So what are these things and what have I deduced? So this is not me teaching. This is me sharing my experience. So if anything I say is like, whoa, Katie, that's weird, like, cool, let it be weird. And please let it just, flow off. Will you? Like, brush your shoulders off. It's all good. You don't have to think how I do. Here's where I want to start. I know it was the first day of October. I want to say it was 2022. This is 2 years after COVID. And during COVID, I had taken a step away from the fundamentalist Christian church. at first because of COVID. Okay. And I started exploring I started experiencing what it was like to not be inside of a church 2, 3, 4 times a week. And I started to, now I know it's called deconstruct my faith, meaning I took a hard look at what I believe, why I believe it. Do I still believe it? What, why? Like, what is it in me that knows this to be true? And I asked really hard questions. And that can be really scary for someone who was raised with pretty much like a black and white thinking. This is right, this is wrong. There's always been questions and ways that I would like seek and look to the Bible to answer these questions. And sometimes I would be like confused, but then I would just let it go. However, like I said, very intuitive. There's things that are stirred in me that I just still have questions. In 2020, I just took the time to journal, to seek, to read, to ask myself hard questions. And I had a really hard time. There was, if you will remember, a ton of political stuff going on. And while I hadn't been a very politically minded person at the time, I started to ask questions or to see things in a new perspective. And I started watching TV shows like The Unexplained or Life near death experience stories really intrigued me. That was one. I read some books that people recommended, and I just wanted to get information and see like why so averse. I want to find out why it's unsafe for me to go and study and think and understand other ways of connecting with God. Okay. So I I started down this path. It wasn't like an obsession. It was just like a true curiosity, which that explains me truly. One of the things that I want to share, and I'm not sure where to share it, but I think this might be a good time leaving the building. So I don't know how many of you are churchgoers or were churchgoers. If you've been on a spiritual path, kind of like me, I assume that me being prompted to share this story, there is a reason. And so even though I have no idea what to say and I haven't like written this out, I'm just kind of sharing from my heart. I just want you to know that like leaving the church building doesn't mean you've left God. Sometimes that is where you'll meet God again. And that was my lesson. I was scared that I was losing my faith by stepping out of the church and allowing myself to explore. Now, I had this beautiful excuse of you can't leave your home. Okay. It happened at a time where like I never ever would have stepped out of that church, I don't think, or it would have taken me a long time. But when it was forced and I just took the time to ask the questions that had been brewing in me, I was scared I was losing God and everything that I was foundationed on. But what I've learned now, 5 years later, more than 5 years later, is that that building was not my God. Those exact fundamentalist beliefs were not my faith. I know God in such a deep way now that I could never regret. I could never not keep going deeper because even though I'll never reach the answer, I'll never know the true depth, the well never ends. And even being outside of what I thought was the right thing to do, and by the way, is the right thing to do for many people. All right. And if you love going to church and this community is one that serves you well, please don't hear me saying that's wrong. I do not think that or believe that. I think that it serves so many people in so many ways, and it did for me for 35 years. All right. So, anyway, for me, I met God in a fresh way outside church. I want to share a breaking point for me. So, in 2022, October, I had an experience that I wasn't expecting. I had been doing this journey, but I'm not going to share the whole story here, but I love telling the story. So maybe someday. I had a friend of a friend that was getting like an intuitive message, and she was also a fundamentalist Christian. And so she didn't tell people that she had this mediumship gift of connecting to loved ones that had passed on. But she got this message and was telling my friend sitting next to me this message. And it dawned on me that this message was for me. It was a connection, a loved one from my childhood. And oh, I got chills just saying it. But this person gave me this message, and I didn't believe in mediumship. I didn't believe that a consciousness or a spirit of someone that I knew and loved that passed away could still send me a message. And I can't claim to know how all this works at all, but I know that my experience was that there was so much validation. There was so much understanding that this message was from this person or this person's spirit, or God wanted me to know this message from this person's spirit. I don't know how it works, right? So I get this message and I sat with it, and I kept thinking, like, I should be scared. I should feel this is wrong, but I have never felt closer to God. And I have my journal entry from it. Maybe I should have read that, but it was just like, wow, I feel so seen. I feel heard. I feel like, God, I feel loved. I feel so loved. And of course, this experience made me be like, okay, what's a medium? How does this work? Like, so I get all curious and I go down that rabbit hole. And I really look back to that point as really a breaking point for me, a turning point for me, because I was already struggling. But to that point, for those 2 years, I was like upset, depressed, scared that I was losing my whole life, my faith. And then this thing happened that should have made me feel even worse towards that end. And it made me start back to God. I felt like, wow, there's so much I don't understand, but all I know is I feel seen, I feel loved. So I found out that there's just so much more. There's so much more than I understand. So I don't know. Have you ever had an experience like this? Now, I didn't go to a psychic. I didn't go seeking out a message from a loved one. I didn't feel like I needed that. But it served such a purpose in my life to just show me how I just don't get to know a black and white answer. And so all I have is my experience. And maybe that's true for you too. So since then, I got exposed to Reiki, and I have someone coming on the show next week to talk about Reiki. And so I won't belabor on that too long, but Reiki really intrigued me. And I went to this free like Reiki circle thing in my community, like just out of curiosity, like, oh, okay, it's free. I'm not going to pay for it and then be scared of it or something. Right. And, gosh, it just felt so good to be there. And when I left, I was like, wow, that was like a Bible study. I felt like it was just prayer. And it's like love sending out. And they even had like at this Reiki circle, like my perspective coming from that church background, we'd go to prayer meetings, we'd write down our prayer requests, and then like the elders or, the leaders would pray for those people or those circumstances over the week. Well, exact same thing happened at the Reiki share circle. We wrote, who needs distance Reiki? We're going to send them love and thoughts and vibrations. And they call it source love or universal love. So in other terms, God, right? And for me, I trust how I feel in those situations, because I know what it feels like for things to be off. And it felt so comforting. It felt so familiar. It felt like the God that I grew up knowing. I grew up knowing. So I am excited about this series. We're going to hear about cards and pendulums and energy work and muscle testing and sound healing and astrology and more, right? mediumship. Maybe I can get one of my friends that gets messages. Maybe that'll happen too. So anyway, I just want to see if I can start to share some of the richness and the experience that I've been having in my life. I don't want to keep it to myself. And I'm curious. I'm going to throw out some questions here. And if you have time after listening to this, think if you have any answers to them, because I think it would open your mind to um, just being open about some of the stories that you get to hear. And ultimately, you get to be the judge on if something serves you or not. And that's one of the things I share with those that get human design readings with me is I'll say, you don't have to believe the theory of how this came together. If it's supportive and it's a practical tool that will help you on your journey, you can take it. And if it doesn't, that's okay. It's okay. So here's some questions, some possible takeaways for you. When have you felt closest to God or source or spirit, whatever you want to say there? What did it feel like when you felt that spiritual, that thing that's not just matter? It's not just an experience, but it felt like something more. What are some spiritual tools or practices that you have been curious about, but you're afraid to explore? My answer is everything you're about to hear about in these next several weeks. Is it possible that your spiritual curiosity is a divine invitation? Could your spiritual curiosity be a divine invitation? What does faith without fear look like for me? What beliefs and practices no longer serve me? And what beliefs still anchor me? So I will just share one more little story because I had such a hard time facing what I believed and weeding out what I didn't believe. And I think for a while there, I overcorrected. But what's kind of neat is once you have faced what you believe and you name it and you go through that fear and you get curious about what you're afraid of, and what's cool is faith, hope, and love, they still remain. And when I was finally able to face all of those fears and for me take that divine invitation to go ahead and know that it's safe to explore, the cool thing is that you get to then reconstruct your faith. And I get to use my sacral gut intuition, my inner authority. So I wear 2 necklaces every day. One of them I got from a friend. It is a little mountain and it has 2 pieces of glass and a tiny mustard seed in it. And it represents there's a verse in the Bible that says that we only need the faith of a mustard seed, and that could move mountains. Now, that belief feels true to me. I know that just a little bit of faith and trust, I can do big, big things. So that is an anchor for me. That is part of my faith, from my roots, from my upbringing, that I have so much faith and belief in. I got to make it an anchor for me. All things are possible. Just the faith of a mustard seed. The other thing I wear is a crystal. And, of course, crystals, rocks, everything has an energy to them, and some of them have different frequencies and such. I know there's science to that. But for me, when it comes to using crystals, I don't look to the crystal, just like I don't look to someone that's a quote unquote healer. I don't look to them to heal me. They set the intention and hold the space for me. So when it comes to crystals, for me, at least at this juncture in my belief system, when I'm reconstructing what is an anchor for me, I have 2 that I'm wearing right now. This one here It's like a little green one. It was a gift from a friend. And when I received it, I said this little prayer, and I said, with this rock, I'm going to put my intention into this crystal specifically to let go and give me what I need to let go of things that are no longer serving me. And so when I wear this necklace, every day that I put it on, I think, please allow me to let go. Let me let go of things that are holding me back from my highest good. Okay. And then I've got this other one here. I think it's called Sodalite. And I set my intention that this will give me focus, clarity, the ability to know what my next right step is. And so is it the rock being magically helping me with that? I don't think so. I think it's the energy and the intention that I put on when I put these around my neck. So that's something that I believe. All right. I think I'm going to stop there. Thanks for letting me share my story in a pretty messy way. That's what this podcast is all about, right? Is just figuring it out as we go. I didn't know what I wanted to say, but I knew that I was led to share a little bit about this kind of messy situation. It's not all buttoned up. It's something that is going to be ongoing. And I'm also open to, maybe some of the things I believe now, I'll have to deconstruct from them and find new things. And I know that I'm here to be this transformational coach, this person that helps you take your next right action, to inspire you to become the person that you're meant to be. And in order to do that, I know I have to go first. And that is what I'm doing with my whole heart, with my messy, not doing it right, but I'm doing it. And I hope that will inspire you in some way. Before we meet again next week, I hope that you'll ask some of those questions and just ponder them, gently contemplate, where are you with what you believe? And do you want to figure out what is true for you or what's holding you back? And we will have a series of interviews that I know you're just going to love. Before we go today, I have 3 things that I want to share with you. First of all, I have open enrollments, if you will, that the Lighten Your Load journey. I help people transform the weight that they're carrying, get it off without blowing up their lives. Okay. Little simple tools to help them regulate their nervous systems, do some life coaching, use human design to support that, and sound. Speaking of sound, I have 2 little, I guess, flash sales, if you will. There's 2 things that I really want to get good at on my one-to-one offers, and that is connection chart reading. So that's where you take one human design chart and you put it on the other one. And this would be good for a parent relationship, a partner, siblings, coworkers, to see where you're compatible and where you have conflict. And I'm going to be doing like tiny little 25 minutes, only $33 through October 10th. So I'm only doing 10 of those because my cost for a connection chart reading is like $222. And the reason being, it takes a really long time to study them. I love studying them, but I am trying to figure out if it is valuable to do a 25-minute low dollar option, because there's so many of you that are like, I want to know what pitfalls me and my husband have, or I want to know why I don't get along with my boss or whatever, or why my kids have so much trouble. So I want to come up with a way to do this. And so I've practiced a couple of times making what is the most important things to point out in this chart connection. And so I am offering that. So kind of it's a low dollar way to get those answers in a significant way. And hopefully you take away a couple of tools, even if it won't be a complete reading. And the second special I have is for, I don't know if you remember Wendy, who was on a couple of weeks ago. I have been working with this inner voice, the custom music and harmonics to help with grounding and working with your emotions. So it feels like it's going to be a really fast, no effort way to support people, especially that I'm coaching. So I'm doing like 10, 15 minute. I'm going to give you music that's custom to you. You can use it forever. You get the music. They're just little MP3 files or whatever, but you would talk with me for a couple of minutes. I put your information in, and then I'll email you your custom files. So those through October 10th, $11 to do that, because I want some feedback. I want to know if it supports you and what you notice. So if you want to take advantage of either one of those, please do. And then my open enrollment is through the 21st of September for the Lighten Her Load program. And finally, when you submit a question, when you share the podcast, when you review, sign up for one of the programs, have a reading with me, you're getting entered to win a free reading that I'm giving away. So that's all I have for you today. I am eager to hear what you think of these episodes and this series. So until next week, keep on going. Take some action on something that you know you've been wanting that's deep inside of you. What is that thing? And I hope that this episode has inspired you to take that little bit of action. Okay, bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Inspired by Design with Katie Rupert. If today's episode sparked something in you, I'd love to hear about it. Share your takeaways, subscribe, or even leave a review to help others find the show. For more tools and insights, visit my free Facebook group. And until next time, keep embracing exactly who you are and move forward one inspired action at a time.